to earth. Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
Thank you, Damien. Good morning. I love Emma. You should probably know that about me. Emma Curtis Hopkins was has been known as the teacher of teachers. She was originally started off as a Christian Science practitioner, was the first editor of the Christian Science Monitor after Mary Baker Eddy retired from that position. She and Mary Baker Eddy had, as many people with Mary Baker Eddy had, differences of opinion, shall we say. From what I understand, Mary Baker Eddy had quite an ego and quite a challenge with other people. So she, like many others, split off and did her own thing. And among her students were the Fillmores, who founded the Unity Movement. Her last pupil was actually Ernest Holmes, who started religious science, the two sisters who started divine science, and many, many others. She had set up in Chicago, and people would just go to her for this great teaching that she had. And so Scientific Christian Mental Practice is a collection of 12 lectures that she did, and we're gonna play with a little Emma this Sunday and next Sunday. So if you're an Emma fan, or as we call them up in Seattle, an Emmite, you're going to be very happy with this. Before that, I just want to give a plug for the Nourishing Our Community event. I arrived here last year too late to be able to host anything, even though I love to cook. So this year I already have my host form. It's sitting in my inbox. I grabbed it last night. I snuck in early and grabbed one. So I'll be hosting at least one, possibly two events. So I encourage everybody to participate in that. It's a lot of fun. So, tell the truth. I want to start off with a wonderful quote from Emma. So the quote that Damien read was from chapter 1, called The Statement of Being. Chapter 2 says, "You will notice that the instant you acknowledge that there is good for you, which you ought to have, the thought arises in your mind that you do not have the good that belongs to you." Anybody ever notice that? You state, "I want my good, this is the good I want to have," and then you notice that you don't have it. You feel that your good is absent for you. This is known as the conviction of absence. The conviction of presence is not uttered. That is, we feel the idea of good being for us, but we do not say so. And we feel the idea of the good being absent and keep saying so. We think that our good is absent. We say aloud that our good is absent. Anybody besides me relate to that? Yeah. One of my favorite talks that I ever heard was one of the first times I went to a Silmar was Reverend Edward Vilhune was doing a talk, and I don't remember the talk so much precisely anymore, but I've always remembered the title of the talk. And the talk title was, "Either It's All God or It's Not." And there comes a point where we have to come down on one side or the other of that statement and say, okay, look, either I believe it's all God, or I think that there's God and some other stuff out there. Okay? And I come down, as you can probably figure, on the side of it's all God. So today we're talking about, do we tell the truth or do we focus on the conviction of absence? There's a bunch of favorite phrases that I have from people about the truth. Jesus said, "You will know the truth, and that very truth will make you free." The Tao Te Ching says, "The truth is not always beautiful, but beautiful words, nor beautiful words always the truth." Truth isn't always easy, is it? And then I love the final statement from that great wise person, Gloria Steinem. "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off." Her words, not mine. And we discover that sometimes, don't we? That we uncover a truth. And the first thing we do is get upset about it, right? We uncover a principle. We have the power to create our lives, and the first thing we do is take a look at the lives we have right now and go, Ew. I don't think I want to know about that truth. So we've heard what Emma says is the truth. Aristotle says to say what the truth is, to say of what is that it is, and what is not that it is not, is true. And Ernest Holmes in the glossary puts it this way: the truth is that which is. Pretty simple, right? Just that which is. Not covered over, not perceived, but that which is. He goes on to say, it is the reason, cause, and power in and through everything. Being that which is, it must be infinite and all. Being infinite and all, the truth can have nothing outside itself other than itself or unlike itself. So the truth is that which is, and it's that which is all that is. There's nothing that stands that so that when we talk about the good, we're not talking about good as in good and bad or good and evil, or right or wrong. I love that wonderful Rumi poem that out beyond ideas of right thinking and wrong thinking, there is a field, I'll meet you there. It's that place that we're talking about. It's the good that has no opposite. It's the good we all know is good. It's the good that, as she refers to, we all seek when we raise our hand, when we breathe, when the insect goes for what it wants, when the bird flies. That's good. And the challenge of Emma that she gives us is, where do I place my attention? Where do I place my attention? Do I place it on, once I name my good, do I place it on knowing what my good is and focusing on that, or do I put it on the absence of good? And the good is all present. It's all present. Just like right now, Paris is present on the planet. Can we all agree on that? The city of Paris, France, Paris, Texas too, probably for that matter, and probably there's a couple other Parises that I'm not familiar with, but Paris, France is existent on there. Are we there? No, but it's present, right? Okay, so we might be not there, but it's present. Our good, when we name it, is already present. We might not be there yet, but it's present. There's a wonderful metaphor of if you were just, somebody, you just got a letter in the mail that says you have a relative that just passed away or a friend that just passed away and left you $5 million, but it's going to take you 6 months, for it to get out of probate, and you'll have it all, but it's just going to be 6 months from now. When do you start being happy? Right now. Do you have the $5 million right now? No. But are you happy? Yeah. So that's the consciousness of the good, is we recognize that the good we have named is already present in the universe. We can't name anything that is outside of existence, that is outside of the universe, can we? Can we? No. So it's already present. My good is my God. It has to be, because God is all there is. So any good we can name is God. And the other wonderful statement that I love that she says is, there's good for me and I ought to have it. How many of us know that that's the truth? There's good for me and I ought to have it. Okay? When we start to own it that way. See, oftentimes we say there's good for me and, well, I don't deserve it. I don't know how to get there, so I'm not going to, whatever. But there's a good for me, and I ought to have it. Why? Because I'm also one with God. My good and I are already one. And if I can name it, and if I can follow my soul desire that it should be happening in my life, that it needs to be in my life, that it is being called to be in my life, then oughtn't I to have it? Oughtn't. Is that a word? Oughtn't? It came out. It must be a word. If it wasn't, it is now. So what stops us from living the truth is our conviction of absence. Take a breath. And how it shows up, a couple of different ways that it shows up. Number one, I don't want to recognize this truth. I don't want to recognize the truth. When I hear that kind of a truth, that I can have what I want, that I can create the world that I want, the life that I want, it ticks me off, as Gloria Steinem sort of said. Because I look at the life that I've created, and I don't want to take responsibility for what I've already created. In which case, what's the application is forgiveness. You created just like we all have created out of ignorance. We've all created out of not being fully aware of the use of the law. And we create some stuff we look at and go, yeah. Anybody not done that? Okay, good. My hand's down too. Out of the fact that I don't want to recognize the law, I don't want to name my good. A couple of reasons why I don't want to name my good. Number one, I'm afraid of the power. Maybe I've used this power in the past and I haven't liked the result that I've gotten, so I just say, I'll stop. I'm not going to do that anymore. I don't want to name my good anymore because I might get disappointed. Another reason is I don't know how. A lot of us in this nice practical Western culture, it's like if I don't know how to make my good, bring my good into my life, I'm not going to bother to name it. I'm not going to bother to go after it. Because I, in all my infinite wisdom, don't know how. And so we cut ourselves off from a good that is out beyond what we know as how. How many of you have become aware that as you've grown in your life, you've become aware of more and more and more hows being available? Okay? There's nobody here that knows how to manifest all the good. How many of you have had good coming into your life that you maybe have consciously declared, and it's come into your life in ways that you had no idea that it was going to come that way? Right? You're sitting there going, this connected with that, connected with that, connected. There it showed up. I would have gone over here. That was the only way that I knew was to go over here. Okay? So do we want our good? Would it be okay if we don't know how to get it when we declare it? Okay. So we don't have to know the how. I love the phrase that says, the what is mine, the how is God's. And then number 3 is, I don't believe I deserve my good. I don't believe I deserve it. Again, I'm holding something back with myself. I've got some condemnation or something that I thought that I've done that I don't believe that I've deserved it. And so we have to forgive that and let it go. Whatever we're holding against ourselves and saying, I don't deserve this, you're a magnificent expression of the divine. That has never changed. I keep going back to that wonderful story called the prodigal son. The father never stops loving the son through the whole process of what the kid does. Never. The infinite presence can't stop loving us. It's so dysfunctional, it can't stop. Got it? You are completely immersed in the love of God no matter what you do or don't do. Now, there's consequences. There's the law, which we talk about, which brings results into our lives from what we put out there. Not punishment, just results and consequences. But the infinite loves us, and you have always been a beloved child of God, expression of God. So that's number 1. We don't want to recognize the truth. Number 2 is we don't believe God is all there is. We believe in God and something else. We believe in God and lack. We believe in God and evil. We believe in God and sickness or death. We believe in more than one God. It's the old biblical phrase of having false gods before us. We believe in God and something else. How many of you know somebody, I'm not going to ask you to say yourself, but you know somebody who you think kind of probably is working off that paradigm? I know somebody pretty darn well that sometimes works off that paradigm. Okay? We have more than one God. We don't believe that God, the good, is all there is. Because if we did, we'd declare what we want and enjoy it immediately. Breathe that in. And it's okay that we don't. You're not wrong. We're just all waking up to that process. So what we believe becomes our experience. One of our core teachings, what we believe becomes our experience. It doesn't mean that it's because it's the truth, it's because we believe it is so. We have named these experiences as truth, as our truth. And so guess what? We get to experience them. So we've used our creative consciousness to create these experiences in our lives. And we've named them as our good. And why would we do a thing like that? A couple reasons are to fit in, to get along with other people. Have you noticed that most of the culture is kind of doing that? Is naming stuff that we would not necessarily, is believing in stuff that we would not necessarily say is our truth. We've got a culture that believes in lack, right? We got a culture that believes in sickness, aging, death, war, strife, racism, sexism, da 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 da. Have you noticed we kind of live in that culture? Anybody besides me? You've watched the news, right? Yes? Oh, good. And so in order to fit in order to get along, in order actually to just be loved by and please others, we oftentimes go along with that stuff, even though we don't believe it, or we say we don't believe it. Sometimes we use this to avoid something else. How many people besides me have ever faked sickness to get out of school or work? Okay? So you have to believe in sickness, right? Or at least believe in the existence of it. So we do that to get results or to go along with what we want. We use phrases like, I can't afford that. Ooh. We use that phrase to avoid what Raymond Charles Barker calls the hard mental work of expanding our consciousness to include whatever it is we want. Instead of saying, I can't afford that, we could say, I choose not to afford that at this time, or spend the money on that at this time. I choose to move into being able to afford that. Right? Yeah? But I can't afford that. Yes, you can. You're the infinite presence of God. You've got the entire infinite wealth of the universe available to you if you knew how to tap into it. And so all it is a problem. The challenge is not you can't afford it. The challenge is right now you don't know exactly how you're going to afford it. It's that how problem again, right? And so if you look at something and say, you know, I really want this. I really want that Hawaiian vacation. I really want that new house. I really want that Ferrari. I really want that new car, you know. I really want that loving relationship. I really want that healthy body. I may not know how to afford it, whatever the pay is, because it's not always money, is it? If I want a new loving relationship, it's not money necessarily. It might be pay in a different form. Payment of heart, payment of shifting my consciousness. I have to do the mental work to create the consciousness that I am the kind of person who does own that I have expanded. Another phrase we use is, I don't really want it. This is the old sour grapes thing, right? We deny our goodness and our deservingness. The truth is, if we really told the truth, if we could put a lie detector on each person and hook you up to it, you would find the stuff you really do want. And you would tell the truth. That's where we tell the truth about what we really do want. You may not know how to get it, but don't sit there and go, I don't want it, just because you don't know how to get it. It's okay to say, this is what I choose. This is my good. I name my good, as Emma teaches us. We use it to avoid stepping into our authentic and true selves and using our authentic and true power. And our basic power that we use is the power of love. Love is the highest name for God. We love things into our lives. We don't demand them. We don't force them. We don't buy them. We love things into our lives. And when we don't do that, when we don't live our authentic true selves, when we don't tell the truth, we end up living those lives of quiet desperation. We feel unfulfilled. And our world of possibility begins to shrink. There's an old Star Trek Next Generation episode where Beverly Crusher was trapped in one of those kind of time warps where it was the world that she was living in was manifesting her consciousness, and her consciousness had a fear that everybody she knew was going to die and her world was going to shrink. And so that's what was showing up. And literally it showed, right down to the Enterprise was getting smaller, less and less and less of it just, compressing in on her. And oftentimes when we stop naming our good, when we stop going for our authentic self, that's what our world feels like. It gets smaller and it gets smaller and it gets smaller in terms of our possibilities. And we take the infinite, unlimited beings that we are and compress them and try and live in a small cage. Take a breath. How do we get out of this? Because you didn't need me to tell you all that stuff. You already know that stuff, right? Some of us have experienced that to a large degree. How do we get out of this? Number one, we tell the truth. We name our real good. Emma says if we can name our good, if we could just name our good, it would free us. But so many of us won't bother to name our good. And the good that I'm talking about, and the good that she's talking about, is not just, I want a new car, or I want a new house. It's our heart and soul's desire. This chapter that I'm working out of is called the Statement of Being. It is our statement of being. Who am I? What am I here to be? That is the good that we're really naming. Everything else flows out of that. It's Jesus' seek ye first the kingdom, and all else shall be added to you. When you know who you are and start being who you are, everything else gets added to you. Everything that supports your existence of who you are starts showing up in your life, including the cars, the relationships, the houses, the money, the health, the everything else. But who are you? What is your being? What are you here to be? What is your statement of being? And she has 4 different areas that she suggests. 1, we're here to be free health. That's not the healthcare program. We are here to be the free expression of health. Health is free. Health, the life energy of the universe, is free. It's its nature. We are here to be strength. We are here to be support. Our good is our support, and our good is our safety. Does that cover about everything? And she says, mostly we are here to be love, that highest name of God. We are here to be love. But you have to put into it your statement of being for what's your good, what's your variation on that, what's your version of that, what's your unique quality, your unique expression of that in this life, what is your good? See, I love being a minister because my good is what I call sacred dialogue, sacred conversations. It's what jazzes me. And whether it's with one person or whether it's with 500 people, sacred dialogue, sacred conversation. Talking about Spirit. Getting inspired and inspiring others about Spirit. I'm in love with God, have you noticed? Probably you are too, that's why you're sitting here. So we become aware of the presence of our truth. We become aware of truth's presence. And we become aware of it, and we stay aware of it. We become aware that all of God is good everywhere present. The good is everywhere present. All of God is everywhere present. There's no part of it that's over here and part of it's over there. It can't be a unity and be, divided that way. So all of God is present right here. And we become more and more and more and more aware of that. And we become aware of that in spite of the appearance of absence. See, we have to look at, and we're going to talk about this next week, but we have to look at appearance of absence in the face and say that is not the truth. That is not the truth, capital T, truth. That is where we tell the truth. We look at the face of absence and we say, you know what? You are not the truth. The truth is the presence of God everywhere present. I've had times in my life where I'm facing personal challenges and I just sit there and start going, there's only one life, there's only one life, there's only one life, there's only one life. It's great to have a mantra. We're talking about, Eddie Watkins is coming, as Reverend Mary mentioned in a couple of weeks to lead that prayer workshop of setting your prayers and to a chant or to a tune. How many of you have ever had a catchy tune that doesn't get out of your head? Okay? What if that catchy tune was your affirmation? A powerful statement of your being. Would that be cool? Because that's what he sets up. This is a guy who's played with all the Motown greats. He knows all those catchy tunes. He played with all those catchy tunes. He knows how to set you up with a catchy tune that resonates with you. Okay? And all of a sudden it becomes your good. That's why I have, music on, when I'm at home that is mostly upbeat music. I don't listen to the same music I listened to 25 years ago. My dog left me. My wife left me. My best friend ran off with my pickup truck. Okay? And took my beer. So we start to listen to stuff that's catchy. We start to listen to the truth. We start to make that what we are looking at instead of the appearance. Jesus said, judge not by appearances, but by righteous judgment. And righteous judgment is simply the truth. It's not a right-wrong judgment. It's truth. Do we judge by the truth? Do we look at what we really, really know to be the truth? Are we willing to take this teaching that we know and walk it down and apply it? Are we willing to truly stand in it when the going gets tough? Are we willing to remember it in the dark nights of the soul? That yes, God is all there is, everywhere present. And I'm going to stand in that awareness until I know that that's what's happened. Until I know that that's what the experience of life is, and I experience that as my truth. As Ernest Holmes said, this is not a theoretical teaching. If we pray for better blood pressure and we're afraid to go see the doctor to check our blood pressure, we're working in superstition. So if we're praying for better blood pressure, we expect to see better blood pressure, right? We're that convicted. We believe in it that much. We walk that truth until it actually shows up in this human form. The second thing we do besides telling the truth is we get support. We get support. You're doing that by being here in a spiritual community, and we play in that spiritual community. The Buddha said, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha is the enlightenment. It's the state of being enlightenment. It's what we would call the infinite love of the one. The Dharma is what we would refer to as the law, the process of how it happens, the wheel of truth, if you will. And the Sangha is the spiritual community. He recognizes that it's a whole lot easier to do this in community, where we have other people to love us and to remind us of the truth of who we are when we forget. Because we all forget, don't we? We all have our forgetting moments. I do. Anybody? Yeah. We all have our forgetting moments. And isn't it great to have somebody who reminds us, David, the real truth of you is you're God in form. Sometimes they don't quite say it like that. Sometimes they say, it's more like, come on, David, wake up. Or, stuff like that. But it's still a reminder. We get a prayer partner. We get somebody who knows the truth and prays and holds that truth with us. We get a practitioner who helps us to know that truth and experience that truth. I would love to encourage all of you to take advantage of the wonderful practitioners and ministers that we have in this community for the counseling, for the process that we do. It is a powerful How many people over here have had a full-on, like the hour-long practitioner session with one of the practitioners or ministers? Okay? And how was it? Great. Worthwhile. Yeah. Yeah, I've had some that have literally saved and changed my life, okay? Work with a practitioner. Work with a minister. They're powerful, trained consciousness to help us to move towards our good more powerfully. That's one of my visions for this community, by the way, is that more and more of us are really taking advantage of the prayer support and the power we have in this practitioner-minister body. We do consistent spiritual practice. Consistent spiritual practice. We take classes, we read books, we do something to feed our mind. My favorite Grace Slick line, feed your head. We do something to feed our head, again, with good. Not her reference, not what she was referring to, but with good. With wisdom, with truth information, with truth telling. Okay? So this week I'm going to invite you to do mostly one thing. Name your good. Name your good. Who are you here to be? And name that. That's not an easy thing to do. It's going to take some time to sit with. Emma, if you read through her book, has practices. And she says on Mondays, sit for an hour and name your good. Become aware of who you are. She has a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday practice also. But on Mondays, it's name your good. It's this first chapter. Sit for an hour. Contemplate, who am I here to be? Who am I here to be? What is that good, that soul-fulfilling good that wants to express through me? If that's not enough, then I'll give you a couple of other practices. 2, practice talking truth. Practice talking the truth. We all catch ourselves every once in a while saying, well, I expect it's going to, not turn out the way I want it to. Last night, Cynthia and I were playing Yahtzee, and it's just as simple as, well, I don't know if I'm going to get that full straight or not. It's like, what do you mean you don't expect to? She's reading Emma for a class right now. And so it's like, what do you mean you don't expect to? I say the same thing too. And it's like we kind of remind each other, wait, expect to get the Yahtzee, expect to get the full straight, Expect you're good. Practice talking truth. Stay away from speaking expectations you don't want. Don't speak what you don't want in your life. That's the simple method. We good with that? Okay. And number 3, keep your eye on the prize. Practice focusing on your good. So once you name your good, tell the truth about it and focus on it. I'm going to close with a quote from Ernest. This is one of those hard teachings in the Science Mind textbook. We shall have to learn that evil is neither person, place, nor thing of itself, but is an experience which we are allowed to have because of our divine individuality until, through negative experiences, we learn to use the law affirmatively, to cooperate with it, and thus to enjoy its full benefits. For the true law is a law of liberty and not of bondage. So I invite you this week to practice telling the truth, telling that capital T truth. So let's move into prayer. Maybe we'll get a little bit of music behind the prayer quietly. Just a little. So take a breath. We allow all this process to sink in. We remember that there is only one pure love, one pure good, one infinite presence that is everywhere present. And that I am one with that, and my good is everywhere present. Say that with me. My good is everywhere present. And so in that consciousness of knowing that it is everywhere present, I simply open to the process that my highest self, my highest, deepest wisdom self has in mind for me to experience and realize that good. That although the appearance of absence seems so strong, it is not the truth. And so I recognize the appearance of the oneness and the fullness and the presence of my good right here, right now. And that is the truth that I speak. That is the truth I speak within myself. That is the truth I speak out into the world. I speak the truth of the presence of my good. And as I establish myself in that, my consciousness shifts, and I expand and express and become and experience greater and greater good. By whatever name I give it, whatever good that I choose, that becomes my experience. I open to that. I let it be. I know what it is. There is that within me which already knows what it is. And all I need to do is simply listen. I don't need to force it. I don't need to create it. It will reveal itself to me in the perfect way, in the perfect timing. And I am committed. I know that each person here is committed to listening to that truth. And as it reveals itself to us, it shifts and transforms our lives. And we move into greater and greater and greater experiences of how good God is and how good we can handle it. And so in gratitude for this good, in gratitude for this truth, in gratitude for the conspiracy for good that we live in this universe, I simply release this word into a law that moves it into form, expression, and experience right here and right now for each and every person. Knowing that it is already done in the mind of God, and we establish that it is done in our minds. That this good that we know, that we are naming, is already ours and is now manifesting fully, completely in our lives. We say yes, yea, amen, and so it is. And yippee skippy. Thank you.